All right, so sticking with our monosaccharides and disaccharides, when we look at the carbohydrate structure in solution, sugars can actually form these cyclical structures. Okay, so they form ring shapes that can connect to form chains of other sugars. So this is in solution, so it could be like in water, etc. So you have fructose and glucose in solution. Those two combined together to form sucrose. So monosaccharides to disaccharides. Now, a disaccharide, again, links two simple sugars together, which will form disaccharide. Di meaning two, disaccharide, two sugars. Okay. It's another example of a dehydration synthesis reaction. So each of those monosaccharides would lose a water molecule between the two of them, thus bonding together, forming this disaccharide. Most common disaccharide, again, is sucrose. That's table sugar. That's glucose and fructose bonded together. Again, we're skipping questions because we're going to save those for the Zoom meetings. Also, keep in mind, I have all of those questions and answers posted in your agenda. So if you missed a Zoom meeting, you can come in and take a look at the questions and answers to give yourself a better idea of how you're doing with the material. Again, anytime you see blue, blue is a video, click on the video. It's good. It's good to hear the information portrayed in different ways. All right. So polysaccharides, poly means many, saccharide means sugar, so many sugars. So polysaccharides are polymers of glucose. So a bunch of glucose molecules bonded together forms polysaccharides. So different monosaccharides are linked together using dehydration synthesis reactions, again, removing that water, and we can form several different polysaccharides. The three most important ones that we're going to talk about are starch, glycogen, and cellulose. I mentioned starch and cellulose on a couple slides back. We're going to talk about glycogen too, very important for animals, muscles, etc. So a starch is used for long-term energy storage in plants. All right. So you have unbranched and branched. Branched, you can obviously see it's like crazy. All right. Unbranched, straight line, branched, looks like it's going in all different directions. It looks branched, if you will. And then we have glycogen. So glycogen has the same kind of bond between monomers as starch does, but it's always highly branched. Okay, it's never in one straight line. So glycogen is used for long-term energy storage in animals and in muscles to provide a local supply of energy when we need, which is why like after you eat, you want to grab something that's got a little bit more glucose to it, maybe some simple carbohydrates. This way you can restore your glycogen. You also want to get protein in there, and we'll talk about protein later as to why protein is important. So glycogen can be broken down by hydrolysis to provide glucose for fuel to cells. So glycogen, long-term energy storage in animals, we break down glycogen to get glucose. Glucose is what can go into the cell for the cell to use for energy purposes. And finally, cellulose. Cellulose is crazy. So cellulose is what makes up the cell wall in plant cells. So plants don't have skeletons, okay? The only thing keeping them up is this cellulose that forms the cell wall. It has a different kind of bond between the glucose molecule, and it forms these chains that are cross-linked by hydrogen bonds. And that just provides this super rigid structure in which plants need in order to grow upwards. Now, because cellulose is this principal structural molecule in cell walls, it's got to be really strong, which is what we're seeing here with all these extra bonds attached. Animals cannot break down cellulose without the help of intestinal bacteria. Okay. You cannot go outside and eat grass. You're not meant to, right? So, cows, ruminants, they will have special gut bacteria in their intestines that helps to break down those cellulose. And we commonly refer to this as fiber. People are like, oh, you need to up your fiber, yada, yada, yada. That is what gives bulk to the stuff moving through your intestines. And it also allows for absorption of nutrients. So, ruminants, cows, things that are predominantly vegetarian, they have more of these bacteria because they need more of them to digest all of their food. So, in order for cells to obtain energy from these polysaccharides, they have to be broken down into monosaccharides. You cannot eat a whole big leafy salad with all the vegetables and maybe some fruit thrown in there for fun and then expect your cells to be like, "Oh, lettuce, hey bud, what's up? I'm gonna use you," right? No, they have to be broken down. So those polysaccharides, those starches, that glycogen has to be broken down into monosaccharides because your cells are just like, no glucose, no go. All right. So hydrolysis happens. So we add water to our polysaccharide here and we break it down into monosaccharides. And then those monosaccharide, those glucose molecules are able to enter the cell and provide energy. All right. And again, not going through questions because I want to make these videos as concise as possible. We'll go through the questions when we do our Zoom meetings. And I'm going to pause the video here and we're going to come back for nucleic acids.